If your lifestyle involves flights, hotels, client dinners, anything that comes along with a man that struggles because they travel a lot for work, then staying lean doesn't need to be complicated. It just needs to be consistent. So here's the simplest ways to get lean and stay lean as a man who travels for work. Let's dive into it. The first point to make is you need to redefine what you see as lean. Because you see these guys on Instagram, you see these bodybuilders, you see these influencers, and they're absolutely ripped to shreds. They've got no body fat on them, right? And that shouldn't be where you're aiming. That shouldn't be where you realistically see your physique being for a prolonged period of time as you go about your normal life. You can get there for, as a challenge to yourself, but maintaining that is really something that you have to be super dialed in. The reality is when you're that lean, for a long period of time especially, your energy is going to be low. Your libido, your sex drive is going to be rock bottom. Focus, brain fog is going to be a problem. And also your hormone levels. Testosterone is going to drop, which has a load of, effects, negative effects among some of the ones I just mentioned there. So the goal should be to have that year-round, athletic, kind of relatively lean look where you're comfortable, you're happy and confident when you look in the mirror, but you're not starving, drained. Because with your lifestyle, with a man who travels regularly for work and is here, there and everywhere, whatever sense that is in your unique situation, you need energy. You need to be on the ball. You need to be thinking clearly. You need to be focused and you need to be able to do what you need to do on a daily basis. So setting a target at the start of your fat loss journey of around 12 to 15% body fat is a great goal to have, and that's really lean, and that might be leaner than you've ever been before, and that's really manageable. But when you start to drop below 12%, then that's when we can start to see some negative effects, and staying down there for a prolonged period of time will bring on potentially some of the things that I mentioned a minute ago. We want to aim for fit and functional, not crazy lean, and something we can't maintain. Number 2 is track what you can control. So obviously whilst you're away with work, you're in a situation where things are out of your control. You have to be mindful. We can implement things like your meal structure, intuitive eating from knowledge you've gained whilst at home. But the most important thing is that when you can control your intake, whilst you're in between work trips, you do, and you're as accurate as you possibly can be. Building awareness and knowledge whilst you're at home of what kind of foods contain what kind of calories and how much protein's in this and how much protein's in that. There's good food choices to make that a lower in calorie but high volume and keep you satiated. These are the kind of things that tracking at home are vital to allow us that slight bit of extra flexibility, and also to allow us to not stress about every single meal whilst we're away. For example, my client Felipe, he has been really consistent whilst he's at home. He's done super well and he's made a lot of progress so far. And actually he went away on a 10-day all-inclusive holiday recently, and he came back and had maintained his weight. But he was adamant he had enjoyed himself. He had some flexibility. But he had more knowledge about what to put on his plate, how to keep him satisfied, but also enjoy his meals. So at the start of your fat loss process especially, ideally we want a week, ideally 2 weeks of tracking, because you can gain so much knowledge of accurately tracking for a couple of weeks. Number 3 is we want to aim to build muscle, not just burn calories. We need to get our training priorities right. And you guys, men who travel regularly for work, we need to aim for resistance training sessions, full body ideally, because that's a great habit to get into. So when we are away and our sessions can become a bit more sporadic, we need to make sure we're hitting all the muscle groups as regularly as we can do to make sure we don't miss anything and nothing gets neglected. Also, when we are away and we may be a bit shorter on time, we have efficient sessions that are still conducive with building muscle and not just trying to burn as many calories in as short a period of time as we can. For example, a lot of my clients, they have a 45-minute to an hour session, full body, whilst they're at home, And then when they go away, they have adapted versions, maybe a 20 or 30-minute session as a backup if they can't do their full session. So if at the moment you are just doing cardio, when you go to the gym when you're away on a work trip, you just hop on the treadmill and you run for 20 minutes, half an hour, or you go on the bike, swap that out. Do it gradually. We don't want to make crazy changes at the start, but swapping it out and doing some weights, doing what they have available, maybe using a resistance band if the gym is very limited, or just body weight. But we want to switch it up, so our goal is to build muscle. Number 4 will be prioritizing sleep. And obviously as a man who's probably getting up early for flights or is leaving the house early for a long commute to meetings with a new client or anything along those lines, sleep can be a bit all over the place, okay? But it's something we need to prioritize to help our recovery. But also, studies have actually shown that if you are in a fat loss phase and you get 8 hours sleep, then almost all of the weight that you lose is from body fat. But there was a group that had around 5 hours sleep per night, and they were in the same deficit as the other group. And actually, up to 40% of the weight that they lost was from muscle mass and the rest from body fat. And that's the last thing we want. So if we need to go to bed slightly earlier because we're up early for a travel day, if we need to adjust our sleeping times or make up for it the following night, or anything we need to do to prioritize our sleep, it's going to be so beneficial. And there are little things that we can do, little strategies to help us with our sleep. For example, supplementing magnesium. We can use an eye mask if we're trying to go to bed a bit earlier and it's still lighter, things like that, earplugs. But also what I've implemented with a client of mine, specifically and more recently, Oliver, who uses evening and morning alarms. So he'll set alarms on his phone that tell him that he needs to turn everything off and go to bed, because he knows he's getting up at a certain time, and that will give him enough of a window to get required amount of hours sleep. So for your next travel day or your next week, plan it out, but set yourself a minimum sleep window, all right? Average it out and stick to it the best you can. For example, 7 hours minimum is a great one to aim for. And number 5 is enjoying the challenge, enjoying the fat loss journey, the process, because you can have a fantastic plan. You can have all the right things in place, but if you hate it, you are not going to stick to it. And that's the simplest thing I can tell you, to find a way that you enjoy, to do this and get the results that you want. And a way to do this, to maybe make the process more enjoyable, is to reframe the challenge that's ahead of you with your travel, you know, because that provides an extra challenge compared to a lot of other men who maybe work 9 to 5 and don't have these regular routine disruptions. And it gives you the opportunity to overcome something instead of just having the opportunity to fail at something. So for your next work trip, pick one struggle, whether that's like the breakfast buffet, whether that's having drinks and not being able to say no in the evening, whether that's picking up crap food at the airport, something you usually struggle with, and set yourself a mini challenge. Tell people so you're held accountable. Set yourself that mini challenge to handle it better on the next trip and see how you do. Be competitive with yourself. Channel your inner competitiveness. So to wrap up, keeping it simple is the most likely way you're going to make progress, okay? Being consistent and remembering that simplicity beats intensity. And there's a lot of potential to make progress regardless of your travel for work. And you just need to want it. You just need to have that drive and not overcomplicate the process. And if you want to get some help with this, because this all sounds good, but you can't see yourself implementing it and you still don't really know where to start, then there's a link in the top line of the description and you can go through, book in a call with me, and we can just have a 15-minute chat about your situation and what I would implement at the start. You know, we can plan out the next few months and really work out how you're going to take back control of your work travel situation. So if you fancy that, it's free call just to find out a bit more about each other and for you to see how I would help you in your unique situation. So jump down there, book a call using the top line in the description, and I will see you in the next one.